Hello, my name is Terry Doran. I'm the creator-producer of a program called Theater for Ideas. We'll be celebrating 30 years on public access television January 6th. So it's a time when I look back at the shows I've done, and one stands out, and that show is the Why We're Here Today. That is a show about Native American activist Leonard Peltier, who is serving a life sentence at Leavenworth Prison in Kansas for allegedly killing two FBI agents on June 26, 1975, on the compound of Jumping Bull in Pine Ridge, South Dakota. The thing you have to remember about this, the two FBI agents, they entered private property with no real cause, and they were also entering a climate of fear which they helped to create. In 1973, the United States government surrounded Pine Ridge and Wounded Knee when the American Indian movement, AIM, took over Wounded Knee for 71 days. Surrounded by helicopters, Army, they held their ground for 71 days. In the following 2 years, from 1973 to 1975, one resident described as a reign of terror. Dozens of American Indians on the reservation were murdered with no investigation, no arrest. In this climate of fear, the two FBI agents entered. A shootout took place. Leonard Peltier and two other Indians, Robert, Dino Butler and Robert, you remember the other one's name?
No.
Rabadoo, were arrested. Two of them were tried in South Dakota and found innocent by reason of self-defense. Leonard Peltier had gone to Canada, was brought back to stand trial. He stood trial in North Dakota. He was found guilty with no real evidence to support it. The government needed a patsy, and they found one in Leonard Peltier. Leonard Peltier, as I said, then was sentenced to life in prison in 1977, and he's been there ever since. The show I did in 1989, November 2nd, so very close to this day of November 5th. We're standing here today. Leonard Peltier called in from Leavenworth Prison into our show. It's one of the best things I've ever done, and that's why it's my favorite, one of my favorites, and one of my most important shows. Today we're standing in for Leonard Peltier with groups around the United States who were inspired by a hearing being held in Switzerland today. Leonard Peltier has become an international cause, widely believed to be brave. Serving a life sentence for revenge against the American Indians for their sense of community. The American, as Leonard Peltier himself said, a warrior in the Lakota Sioux tribe was not one who just carried a gun and acted tough. A warrior was one who helped his people. Pine Ridge is one of the poorest areas in the United States. You have to remember, nobody on that reservation said, hey, I want to buy a house in the poorest area in the United States and live on the reservation. They were forced there against their will. A treaty was signed in the 1800s, the Black Hills. The Black Hills, a beautiful area there around the reservation. Of course, that treaty was not honored. Not one treaty the United States government signed with Native Americans has been honored. And if you're out there, one of the most famous tourist attractions in the United States is Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore has 4 United States presidents' heads, faces, carved into the side of its mountain. All 4 of those presidents oppressed and exploited the American Indian. And that's on the Black Hills. That's how the United States government honors their word. I'd also like to point out that we're standing here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which was once known as Kikionga. So settlement of the largest Miami settlement of anywhere. The Miamis eventually were removed by canal boat by force from their homeland to Kansas. Some got to stay. The point is that the history of the American government's treatment of the American Indian is disgraceful. And I believe it's because the American Indian has this sense of community, of caring for each other. You think about it, the greatest threat to capitalism, this horrible greed and lust for power and money that permeates the American character, stains our soul and keeps us mired in mediocrity. Its greatest enemy is community, of all of us helping each other and caring about each other. It's no wonder that the American government then has so much contempt for native life. You know, Albert Einstein said, great spirits, which I consider Native Americans, great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. So we stand here in Anthony Wayne's town that used to be Kikianga, called Fort Wayne, as we honor the, I think, courage of Leonard Peltier. He's a model prisoner. He's turned himself into a very accomplished artist while in prison. You know, Vince Deloria, a great Indian author, wrote a book called Custer Died for Our Sins. I believe Leonard Peltier is in Leavenworth prison rotting for our sins. He stands for the symbol of the oppression and exploitation of the Native American over centuries. And if we can do one thing to empower ourselves today, those of us standing here for Leonard, it would be this, to free Leonard Peltier.
I think the news media focuses on sensationalism, what gets people's attention, what makes them click on to the television, and there's nothing sensational about his story at this time.
How could we make it more sensational? We set fire to a dog outside of his prison? Do you think that would help?
Well, what we need to do is find an important news broadcaster who will take an interest and do a story. That's one way. To find someone who will champion his cause. Another, short of sensationalizing by doing something violent, which I don't think we want to do.
Right.
We really just have to sell his cause to somebody that has a voice on the national media.
Right. We consider ourselves non-violent, so
Yeah.
we never set fire to a dog.
Right.
We might tell the media that we're going to do that to get them down here because they're going to cover that, right?
Right.
But we wouldn't do that.
Yeah. We were pleased to have media show up today, though. That's
Yeah, that
a
was very
victory.
nice. And
So
I can't wait
hopefully-
to see what they're going to show.
Hopefully they'll show something.
Well, and the media is still here. You're
Oh.
talking to it right now.
Oh, am I? Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the independent media.
Okay.
In 1868, one of the greatest Indian leaders, Red Cloud, said this to his tribe. He told them, if you want to be successful and fit in with the white man, this is what you need to do. He said, quote, the white man respects only riches. You must begin anew and put away the wisdom of your fathers. You must lay up food and forget the hungry. When your house is built, your storeroom filled, then look around for a neighbor who you can take advantage of and seize all he has. That's the greatest description of American capitalism I've ever heard. From Red Cloud, 1868. Independent radio station in New York City asked every city that's sponsoring a vigil to call in. And Dave Lambert has arranged all this. Dave also arranged for the vigil, did the flyer, invited me to speak, and so he deserves a lot of the credit. I know how difficult it has been for Indians to find a place in our society, and how the society in general just wants to see them gone.
And I lived that as a child in high school, and I can understand how government agents could come in and just want to squash them and make them go away. And that's been the tradition for 200 years, and
Amen.
it continues even to this day.
That's right. That's right. Thank you.
Introduction one more time. I missed it.
My name is Kathy Bays. I'm the executive director of NAMI in Fort Wayne, National Alliance on Mental Illness. But my interest is because I grew up in the state of Wyoming. I was born in Cody, lived most of my life in Casper, graduated from Natrona County High School.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for speaking out.
My name is Patty Hunter. My husband has Native American blood in him, and I understand the injustice that's happened to his people here. And my love goes out towards all the Native Americans and the injustice that has been going against them since the colonies from Europe came over. So this is my husband Bob. Well, anyways, his family came over to Canada with the Loyalists, the natives that went up to Canada, but he still has Native American blood, and we are very strong with his people, and we love, and we hope that Peltier is let go soon, and may God be with him.
Well, I certainly want to thank everybody here. Ron's on camera. Dave Lambert, I mentioned before. Dave organized all of this, the signs. There goes Bob and Patty Hunter. Patty's had me on her show. She does a wonderful show on public access called Patty's Page. Bob is her loyal cameraman, and she's off to the library now to do a tape a show. Kathy Bays is director of NAMI, National Organization for Mental Illness, chapter in Fort Wayne, and is planning a rally in behalf of mentally ill people. You know, Park Center just fired 53 people. What kind of country is this where basketball players can make $20 million and you can't even fund a mental health facility? This is all related to Leonard Peltier. So I want to thank everybody. Channel 15 was here. The Journal Gazette was here. We certainly appreciate their support. Public Access Television. Ron has their camera taping us. And in closing, I just want to say we talked to the radio. What was that man's name, Dave, on the radio?
What?
Do you know the man's name we talked to?
No.
Well, anyway, we'll find out. But there's a gentleman hosting a radio show, and he had everybody call in that is holding a vigil today for Leonard Peltier. So that was, and we went way over our allotted time. I'm going to send the gentleman a copy of the show I did with Leonard calling in to Theater for Ideas. And if anybody wants to watch that, it's on tonight at 9:30. Although this probably won't get on before that. But anyway, and also just say that Leonard Peltier is a political prisoner. He's an embarrassment to the United States. The attention he's receiving is an embarrassment. They just want it to all go away. And the gentleman on the radio told me Leonard has now been stuck in maximum security and is not allowed any media interviews. So today he would not be allowed to call in to a show like Theater for Ideas. I got to go to Pine Ridge with my brother and visited Leonard's house where Leonard's mother-in-law lived. And I can attest to the poverty and to the will and the spirit of the American Indian. Thank you very much.
This is something I'd like to also mention to the audience here, is that Indian people have been doing this for me since the beginning of my arrest. There's Indian people of all religious denominations that have been praying for me, from Mormons, Catholics, every denomination. The Catholics, Indians have been lighting candles on my behalf, and